Alina was born in a quiet valley where tall grass moved like waves in the wind. Her home was a settlement built near a slow river that curled around the land like a silver ribbon. The valley was surrounded by soft hills, and beyond those hills stretched miles of open plains where horses ran freely under the warm sun. Her father was the respected leader of the tribe, a calm and wise man who listened before he spoke. People looked to him for guidance during every season of the year. Because of this, Alina grew up with many eyes watching her. Some admired her, some envied her, and some waited to see what kind of person she would become. From a very young age, Alina loved to ride horses. She learned to sit on a horse before she learned to speak full sentences. Elders would joke that she was born with the wind as her companion. She would ride across the plains, always returning with her hair flying behind her and her cheeks full of color. Children followed her around with admiration, wanting to be just like her. Adults smiled when they saw how happy she made her father. The chief would often stand at the edge of camp, watching her return from long rides. His eyes would soften with pride. Her life at that time felt full and bright. She was known for her kind nature. Alina never ignored anyone. If a child cried, she sat beside them. If someone was lonely, she shared stories. If an elder was tired, she offered to help. She believed that kindness was like sunlight. It could warm even the coldest day. Time passed, and Alina grew from a playful girl into a thoughtful young woman. She continued riding almost every morning, greeting the sunrise with a quiet smile. Her horse, a gentle mare with a white patch over one eye, was her most trusted companion. They understood each other in a quiet way without many words. Then one day life changed. It happened during an ordinary morning. Alina rode her mare across the plains as she always had. The sun was rising, the sky was soft, and there was no sign of danger. While crossing a small slope, her horse slipped on loose soil. It was a sudden movement. There was no warning. The mare tried to regain balance but could not. Alina fell. The moment itself was quick, almost like a blink. There was no loud cry, no dramatic scene. The world simply shifted. When she opened her eyes, she felt strange stillness in her body. Her arms moved, but her legs did not. She tried to stand but could not feel her feet. Her horse stayed beside her, nudging her gently as if trying to help. A group of riders soon found them and brought her back to the settlement with great care. They spoke softly to her, as if raising their voices would make things worse. The healer of the tribe came. Many treatments were attempted. People brought herbs, blankets, warm water, prayers, and hope. Days became weeks. Alina remained patient and brave. She tried to move her legs every morning, telling herself that today might be the day she felt something again. However, her lower body stayed still. Her world began to change slowly. She could no longer ride across the plains. She now sat and watched the horses from afar. She could no longer walk among the river reeds. She listened to the sound of the water instead. Her father stayed by her side. He spoke gentle words to her. He told her that her life still mattered. He reminded her of her strength. Alina listened, and she tried to believe him. She continued to smile for others, although her smiles grew softer and quieter. Seasons passed. The tribe faced challenges, as all groups do. Winter was longer than expected. Food became harder to gather. Illness came and went among the people. The chief still worked to guide them, though worry weighed on him. Some of the tribe began to look at Alina differently. It was not anger. It was fear. Fear of limited resources. Fear of long winters, fear of the unknown future. They whispered to one another, believing no one heard. They wondered how they could continue caring for someone who could not move on her own. They wondered how much time they had before another hardship arrived. The chief heard these whispers, although no one said them directly to him. He felt each whisper like a cold wind against his heart. Alina noticed the change as well. She noticed the careful glances. She noticed how fewer people came to sit with her. She noticed how children still loved her but were guided away by their parents. She understood that it was not personal. It was worry. It was the feeling of survival pushing at the edge of the mind. She felt sadness, but she did not speak of it. She did not want to place more weight on others. Her father, still loving her deeply, felt torn. He wanted to protect her. He wanted to lift every burden from her path. He wanted to hold back the world and tell it to leave his daughter in peace. Yet he also carried the responsibility of his people. He listened to their needs. He saw the growing hunger. He saw the fear. The situation placed him in a place of deep sorrow. The love of a father and the responsibility of a leader pulled at him from opposite sides. During this time, Alina spent long hours outdoors, sitting near the river. She watched small birds hop between reeds. She listened to the soft sound of water brushing against rocks. The world moved around her slowly like a calm breath. She thought about her past rides and the feeling of wind on her face. She wondered if she would ever feel that again. She wondered what her purpose would be now that she could not run across the plains as she once had. Though her body was still, her spirit remained gentle and observant. She began to understand her world in quieter ways. She noticed the shape of clouds, the habits of birds, the pattern of leaves falling from trees in autumn. The land that she once crossed quickly on horseback now revealed itself more slowly. There was beauty in that, even though the change was hard. People sometimes forget how strength can take different forms. Alina's strength was once wild and visible. Now it was quiet, patient, and enduring. She woke each day despite her challenges. She greeted others kindly, even if they did not stay long. She found small reasons to keep going. She did not speak this out loud, but she held on to these moments inside her heart. Her father watched her and admired her still. He felt sorrow, yet he also felt pride. Her courage did not fade. It simply changed shape. The land, the river, and the quiet sky became her companions now. The tribe continued to shift as time moved forward. Some tried to help when they could. Others kept distance because of uncertainty. Alina did not blame anyone. She understood that people were shaped by their circumstances. Hard times create hard decisions. She hoped that someday gentle seasons would return. Her father continued to stay near her whenever possible. He wished to protect her from sadness. However, Alina sensed more than she spoke. She knew that her father's heart carried many responsibilities. She wished she could give him comfort even though she could not stand or walk. The valley remained beautiful. The horses still ran. The sun still rose. The river still sang. Life continued in quiet motion. Yet beneath that calm surface, change was gathering. Nobody knew what the coming months would bring. The future was like a distant horizon, hazy and unseen. Alina did not fear the future. She simply waited, trusting that something meaningful still lay ahead, even if she did not yet know what it would be. That was how Alina lived in those days. Not with the same freedom she once had, but with steady patience and quiet courage. Her father watched over her, holding hope in his heart. The tribe moved forward, carrying their own hopes and worries. Life did not stop. It flowed slowly, like the river beside the valley, always moving toward something new. Everything was changing, even if no one could see the full shape of that change yet. Time continued to move through the valley. Leaves changed color, winds grew cooler, and the sky seemed heavier with each passing day. Alina's life, which once felt full of movement, now settled into routines. Each morning the sun rose and each evening it set, but the days were not the same for the tribe anymore. Supplies were becoming fewer. The long winter had taken more than anyone expected. Food that once filled storage baskets was now carefully measured. Even the river seemed to flow slower, as if nature itself felt tired. The tribe tried their best to care for everyone. They worked hard to gather berries, to hunt, to fish, and to trade. But no matter how hard they worked, the needs of the community always seemed larger than what they could provide. The chief, Alina's father, carried the weight of these concerns quietly. He stood at the center of the settlement each evening, planning, thinking, hoping that the next day would be easier. His people looked to him for answers, and he tried to give them peace with his steady presence. Alina watched her father carefully. She saw the deep lines forming on his forehead. She saw how his shoulders felt heavy, even though he held himself tall. She could feel his worry even when he did not speak about it. When he sat with her at night, his voice was soft, but his eyes held the depth of unspoken thoughts. She wished she could tell him that she did not want to be the reason he felt torn between love and responsibility. However, she also knew that saying so might make him feel even more sorrow. As the days continued to shift, the mood within the tribe changed as well. Conversations lowered in tone. People gathered in small groups and spoke in quiet voices. The whispers were no longer occasional. They became steady, like wind rustling through dry grass. They were not unkind, only uncertain. People asked themselves what they would do if the coming season proved more difficult than the last. They asked how they could take care of everyone when the resources seemed so rare. They wondered what choices would keep them safe when time grew harder. Alina did not need to hear every word to understand the meaning behind the whispers. She could feel change rising like a slow tide. Her presence required care, time, food, effort. Before her accident, she had contributed much. She carried water, gathered herbs, helped prepare meals, comforted elders, and played with young children to keep their spirits high. She was a part of the daily life of the tribe. Now she could no longer offer the same help. She could still share kindness, still speak gently, still listen with compassion, but the tribe was beginning to believe those things were not enough when survival was at stake. One evening, as the sky turned a warm pink, the tribe gathered for a meeting. The fire in the center of the settlement glowed softly, lighting the circle of faces. Alina remained in her dwelling, for she had not been asked to join the meeting. She could hear the soft rise and fall of voices. There were pauses where silence held heavy meaning. She did not need to understand every word to know the discussion was about her. Her father attempted to speak for her, of course. He always did. He spoke of her heart, her courage, her importance. He reminded the tribe of her value. But even he could not deny the reality that their resources were becoming thin. It was not a matter of love. It was a matter of the tribe's future. Everyone felt caught between care and necessity. No decision was made that evening. They parted with gentle nods, each person carrying their thoughts home. Yet from that point on, something subtle shifted. People still cared for Alina, but there was a quiet distance now. They brought her food but stayed less time when visiting. They smiled, but the smiles held sadness in them. They no longer spoke about upcoming seasons hopefully. They spoke with uncertainty. Alina understood, though her father tried to shield her from the truth. She knew that the tribe was frightened. She knew that their world was not as secure as before. She did not hold anger in her heart. Instead, she felt a calm sadness. She had lived among these people her entire life. She had shared meals with them, laughed with them, cried with them. She cared deeply for them. She did not want her presence to cause worry. One quiet afternoon, she sat near the river with her father. The water reflected the sky in silver and blue. Birds floated gently above the surface, dipping to catch small insects. Alina placed her hands into the water and let it move through her fingers. Her father knelt beside her, his expression distant. "Do you think," Alina asked softly, "that the tribe is afraid of the days ahead?" The chief did not answer right away. He took a slow breath. "They are worried," he admitted. "They want to protect the future. They want to make choices that keep everyone safe." He paused again and his voice lowered. "They do not want to lose you, but they do not know how to care for everything at once." Alina listened with acceptance. She did not cry. Instead, she placed her hand over his. "I know," she replied. "I understand." In the days that followed, the tribe continued to consider their choices. Some believed that Alina's life should remain fully protected no matter the cost. Others believed that the tribe had to think of survival for everyone. The discussions were not cold. They were simply difficult. One gentle morning when mist covered the valley, a quiet choice was made. It was agreed that a small shelter at an outpost near the hills would be prepared for Alina. It was not far away. It was a place with access to water, and it would be peaceful. The tribe believed she could rest there with supplies left for her. They told themselves that nature would take its course and that perhaps in time help might return. They convinced themselves that it was an act of acceptance rather than abandonment. Alina was told of the decision. Her father could barely speak as he explained. His voice trembled, his gaze lowered. Alina reached out her hand to him and held it. She did not speak words of blame. She simply nodded slowly, her heart quiet and deep. She prepared for this new chapter with calm grace. The tribe helped her travel to the outpost on a gentle wagon. They placed blankets, herbs, and enough food for some weeks. The shelter was small but warm. The river still sang nearby. The hills rose in soft curves around her. The world here was peaceful, though lonely. Some tribe members cried quietly before leaving. Others walked away in silence, their eyes holding stories they could not speak. Her father stayed the longest. He sat beside her and held her hands. His face showed love, sorrow, and a silent apology. Alina smiled at him, small but real. "Do not worry," she whispered. "The world is wide. I am not alone in it." When the tribe finally walked away, the valley felt still. Alina sat in her shelter, listening to the wind brush gently against the grass. She looked at the sky and took a steady breath. She did not feel anger. She did not feel fear. She simply felt the quiet weight of change. The days that followed were slow and peaceful. The world around her felt large, like a silent companion. She watched the sun rise each morning, letting the light fill her face. She listened to the river. She spoke softly to the birds. She found strength in stillness. Alina did not know what the future would hold. She only knew that life had not ended. It had simply changed. She believed that there was still something waiting for her in the wide, quiet world beyond the hills. She just didn't know yet that someone was on their way. A traveler quiet and steady as the wind. A presence that would shift her world once more. The outpost where Alina stayed was quiet. Days passed slowly there, as though time itself walked with soft footsteps. The hills surrounded her like curved arms of the earth, and the river's gentle sound filled each morning and evening. The air felt peaceful yet also lonely. Alina learned to live with the stillness. She had blankets, food stored in neat baskets, and a small fire pit that warmed the space when nights grew cool. The shelter was simple, but the valley around her felt open and bright. Sometimes she spent long hours watching clouds move across the sky. Other times she traced patterns in the dust with her fingers. She listened to birds singing in the grass and watched small rabbits hop between shrubs. She found beauty in the quiet, though her heart sometimes felt heavy. She wondered how long she would stay there. She wondered what her future might look like. Yet she did not give in to hopelessness. She believed that life still had meaning even in silence. One afternoon, the sky shifted. A warm breeze carried the faint sound of hoofbeats. It was a soft rhythm, gentle and steady, like a slow heartbeat traveling through the ground. Alina noticed it first through the stillness of the air. The animals nearby paused. The birds fluttered to higher branches. Something was approaching from beyond the hills. Soon a figure appeared on the horizon. It was a man on horseback riding alone. His movements were calm. He did not rush. He did not seem to demand anything from the world around him. He simply traveled forward with quiet composure. His hat shaded his eyes from the sun, and his coat looked worn from many miles of journey. His horse was strong and gentle-looking, with slow and steady steps. Alina watched from the doorway of her shelter. She did not feel fear. Something about the man's presence felt peaceful, like softened earth after rainfall. When he reached the small clearing near the shelter, he stopped and looked around. His eyes took in the scene quietly. The small dwelling, the river, the sky, and finally, Alina. He did not speak right away. Instead, he simply nodded to her, as though acknowledging that she existed, that she mattered, that she belonged in the world. Alina returned the nod, her expression calm. She was used to silence, but this silence felt different. It did not weigh her down. It felt gentle. The man dismounted from his horse and led the animal to the stream to drink. His movements showed patience. He did not act hurried or unsure. When he finished tending to his horse, he walked toward Alina and stopped a few feet away. Still, he did not speak. Instead, he carefully reached into his saddlebag and brought out a small canteen of water and a bundle wrapped in cloth. Alina understood the meaning. He had brought something for her. She accepted the bundle and opened it slowly. Inside were dried fruits, small pieces of bread, and some herbs. Her eyes softened. She looked up at him with gratitude. "Thank you," she said quietly. The man nodded once more. He finally spoke, but his voice was low and gentle, like the tone of someone who rarely used many words. "My name is Elias." The name felt simple, steady, like him. Alina introduced herself in return. Elias listened, and something in his expression changed just slightly, as though he recognized her name or perhaps simply felt its warmth. He did not ask why she was there. He did not ask what happened to her. He simply accepted her presence as she accepted his. Elias stayed nearby for a while. He set his small camp not far from the shelter, giving Alina space while still being close enough to help if needed. He collected firewood and shared it with her. He cooked a simple meal and offered half to her without making it seem like charity. He worked quietly, respectfully. Alina watched him with quiet curiosity. His silence did not feel empty. It felt thoughtful. He seemed to speak more with his actions than with his voice. In a world that often felt loud in its expectations, Elias seemed to carry a different understanding, that presence itself could be meaningful. Days passed, and Elias remained in the valley. He did not speak much about himself. He did not tell stories of his past or his journey. Yet the calm way he moved suggested a life of steady observation, a heart shaped by long travel and quiet reflection. He repaired small things around the shelter when he noticed they needed fixing. He washed his horse in the river each morning. He helped Alina collect water in buckets and stored it inside for later use. He did not try to change her. He simply helped her continue. Alina found herself enjoying his company. Though he spoke little, she felt understood. She shared stories of her childhood, soft stories about summer grass, about learning to ride, about evenings spent singing with friends by the fire. Elias listened with attention, never interrupting. His silence was not distant. It was caring. One evening, they watched the sunset together. The sky glowed with strong colors, peach, gold, rose, and violet all blending together like a painting spreading across the sky. Alina breathed in the warm air. "Sometimes I miss the feeling of riding fast," she said softly. "The way the wind felt. The freedom." Elias nodded. He understood something about quiet longing. After a moment he spoke, carefully, thoughtfully. "Freedom can take new shapes," he said. Alina let the words settle in her heart. She knew he was not telling her to forget her past. He was reminding her that life, even changed, could still hold meaning. As the days continued, Alina grew stronger in her upper body. She could lift herself more easily. She could adjust her sitting position with more confidence. Elias noticed this and gently encouraged her to keep trying. He never pushed her. He only supported the strength she already carried. Their connection continued to grow, not with dramatic declarations but with shared moments. Elias helped her adjust her seat near the river so she could watch the water more comfortably. Alina noticed when Elias seemed tired and offered her calm presence in return. They shared meals, shared silence, shared sunsets. In time, Elias brought his horse closer and allowed Alina to place her hands on the soft fur of the horse's neck. The horse stood still, calm, sensing the gentle nature of the moment. For Alina, the touch reminded her of her past, yet also introduced something new, a present that could still hold warmth. The valley, once filled only with quiet loneliness, now felt alive again. The sky felt wider. The grass felt brighter. The river seemed to sing more softly, as if welcoming the companionship growing there. Elias had come without expectation. Alina had accepted him without fear. Together they formed a bond built from patience, respect, and presence. It was not dramatic. It was not rushed. It was something real and steady. Neither of them knew exactly what would happen next. They did not plan far into the future. They simply lived each day as it came, trusting the quiet connection forming between them. And in that gentle unfolding of time, something deep and comforting began to bloom. Something that would soon shape the path of both their lives in ways neither had expected. The world had changed for Alina once when she lost her ability to walk. Now it was changing again, with Elias's arrival, with companionship instead of loneliness, and with the quiet hope that life still carried new beginnings. The days in the valley began to form a rhythm. Morning light stretched softly through the hills. The river shimmered like silver ribbon beneath the sun. The grass swayed in slow waves. Life was simple there, quiet, steady, and healing. Alina and Elias shared this quiet world, and though few words were spoken, the silence never felt empty. It felt warm, like a home shaped not by walls but by understanding. Elias rose early each day. His movements were smooth and unhurried. He would feed his horse, check the area around the shelter, and then help Alina prepare for the day. He never rushed her. He always gave her time to adjust her seat or shift her weight so she could remain comfortable. Alina appreciated his awareness. He did not treat her as fragile. He simply respected her limits and quietly supported her strengths. Some days Elias would set up small exercises to help Alina regain more control of her upper body. He placed smooth stones in front of her for her to lift and move. He taught her how to stretch her arms in gentle motions to keep her muscles strong. They approached these exercises like shared tasks, not challenges. If Alina needed to pause, they paused. Alina had once lived in motion, riding across plains, racing the wind. Now her movement was slower, but Elias helped her discover that slowness did not mean weakness. It meant patience. It meant care. Every small improvement felt like a quiet victory. One noon, when the sun was high and warm, Elias asked softly, "Would you like to sit closer to the river today?" Alina looked at the water shining in the distance and nodded with a hopeful smile. Elias gently lifted her from the wooden chair she sat in and helped her settle on a soft blanket near the riverbank. The earth beneath her felt cool, and the sound of water flowing felt soothing. Alina closed her eyes and breathed in. She felt peaceful. She looked at Elias and asked, "Do you ever miss being somewhere else? You have traveled so far. Does staying here feel like stopping your journey?" Elias considered the question thoughtfully, as he always did. He sat beside her, arms resting loosely over his knees. "Sometimes," he said softly, "a journey is not about distance. Sometimes it is about learning where your steps are needed." Alina understood. His words did not feel like a lesson. They felt like truth. Over time, Elias began showing Alina how to sit upon his horse again, though only with support. He did not rush her into it. He waited until she herself said she wished to try. One evening, the sky glowed with warm gold and the air felt gentle. Elias brought his horse forward and Alina reached to touch its soft mane. Her heart beat faster, not with fear but with memory. The horse stood still, patient. Elias spoke softly. "We will go slowly, only if you feel safe." Alina nodded. He lifted her with steady care, supporting her back, her arms, her balance. Once she was settled on the horse, she sat very still. The familiar shape of the horse's body beneath her brought back memories of her younger self, free, fearless, full of light. She did not cry. Instead, she smiled, small and full of quiet emotion. Elias walked beside the horse, his hand lightly on the reins. They did not move fast. They simply took slow steps along the riverbank. But even slow steps held meaning. Even gentle movement felt like returning to a part of herself she thought she had lost forever. After that day, they practiced often. Sometimes Alina rode for a short time. Sometimes only for a few breaths. The length did not matter. What mattered was that she was moving forward, not returned to who she was before, but growing into who she was now. Their bond deepened in the soft spaces between words. Elias spoke little, but when he did, his words always held care. Alina spoke more now than she had in months. She began sharing hopes again, even small ones. She laughed sometimes. Light, almost surprised laughs that rose gently like bubbles in water. Elias never forced joy, but he made room for it. As weeks passed, Alina's strength grew. She could lift herself more easily. She could hold steady while riding with support. She could shift her arms with more confidence. She could even help with small tasks around the shelter, such as arranging blankets or preparing herbs for tea. Every improvement was quiet but meaningful. During this time, the valley felt alive. The wind felt warmer. The nights felt softer. Even the stars felt closer. The world seemed to recognize that something gentle and important was happening there. One evening, Alina and Elias sat beside the fire as the sky turned deep blue. They watched sparks float upward like tiny stars joining the sky. Alina looked into the flames and spoke quietly. "I used to think my life had ended the day I fell," she said. "I thought everything meaningful had been taken away, but now I can see that life can change and still hold beauty." Elias listened, eyes calm. "Loss and change are both part of living," he said. "You learn to see your world differently. That is strength." Alina felt his words settle in her heart. She knew he was right. Her life had changed, but it had not lost meaning. She had not stopped being herself. She had simply learned new ways to exist. Sometimes Alina asked Elias about his past. He never gave long explanations. He spoke simply. He told her he had traveled towns and fields, always moving, always searching. For what exactly, he did not know. He said he had met many people, seen many sunsets, watched many rivers flow, but he had never stayed in one place for very long. Alina looked at him and asked gently, "What made you stay here?" Elias paused, looked toward the hills, and answered softly, "The world felt quiet here, and then I met you. Sometimes the heart knows where it should rest." Alina felt warmth rise in her chest. Not the quick excitement of a story filled with rush, but a deep, steady warmth that felt like belonging. Like safety. Like trust. Their connection was not loud or dramatic. It was soft and real. As more time passed, the idea of returning to her tribe began to form slowly in Alina's thoughts. Not to prove anything. Not to demand anything. Simply to show that life had continued. That she had not been lost. That kindness, patience, and care could rebuild what once seemed broken. She did not speak this wish immediately. She allowed it to grow quietly in her heart. When the time felt right, she shared it with Elias as they watched the river reflecting the evening sky. "I want to see my people again," she said softly, not to ask them why, not to bring sadness, only to show that I am still living, that life still moves, Elias nodded with gentle understanding. We will go when you feel ready. His words held no pressure, only support. Alina smiled. She did not know what the tribe would think or how they would react, but she knew one thing. She was not returning as a symbol of sorrow. She was returning as herself, someone who had grown quieter but also stronger. And she would not be returning alone. The road ahead was uncertain, but she no longer feared uncertainty. She had lived through loneliness, through change, through stillness. She had found connection in silence. She had learned that life could begin again, even after everything had changed. The valley had given her peace. Elias had given her companionship, and she had given herself courage. The journey back to her tribe would soon begin. A new chapter was waiting just beyond the hills. As the days continued to pass, the hills slowly shifted from bright greens to soft golden shades. The wind carried a warm feeling, as though the season itself was preparing for something new. In the small valley near the river, Alina felt a growing sense of readiness, quiet but strong. She could sit upright more easily now. She could lift herself with steady hands. She could ride with Elias supporting her balance. These were small steps, but each one carried meaning. She was not who she used to be, but she was not lost. She had grown into a different kind of courage, and now she knew it was time. One morning, when the air was cool and gentle, Alina looked toward the hills and spoke softly to Elias. I feel ready, she said. Her voice was calm, not rushed. There was no fear inside it. Elias listened and nodded slowly, showing respect for the decision she had made. He did not question her. He did not hesitate. He simply accepted her readiness the way he accepted the sunrise each day, with quiet understanding. Together they prepared for the journey. Elias made sure the horse's saddle was secure and comfortable enough to support Alina's position. He packed blankets, food, and water, not because the journey was long, but because he wanted to make sure she felt safe. Alina wrapped herself in a cloak that had once belonged to her mother, a cloak that felt like a gentle reminder of home. Elias helped Alina onto the horse, just as he had many times before. She settled into place with practiced steadiness. The horse stood calm beneath her, sensing her emotions with quiet awareness. Elias walked beside them, one hand near the reins, his steps strong and sure. They traveled slowly, following the curve of the river as it led them through the valley and toward the plains beyond. The land around them opened wide. The sky stretched forever. The air was full of the steady sound of their footsteps and the soft whisper of wind passing through tall grass. Alina felt many things during the journey, not fear, but reflection. She remembered her childhood, riding across fields with laughter in her voice. She remembered the day of her fall, how quickly life had changed. She remembered the quiet days at the outpost when loneliness had felt large, and she remembered the day Elias arrived, when life gently opened again. She did not feel sorrow for what had happened. She no longer wished to return to the past. She simply felt grateful for the journey that had shaped her. After some time, they saw the first signs of the settlement in the distance. The houses formed a familiar circle. Smoke rose gently from a few fires. Children played near the open spaces. Horses grazed near the river. Everything looked the same, yet somehow different. As they approached, some of the tribe noticed them. At first, there was silence. People stood still. Their eyes widened. No one had expected to see Alina again, not after so much time. Her name had become a soft memory spoken with sadness and uncertainty, and yet here she was, returning not as someone defeated, but as someone who had journeyed through quiet challenges and found her strength again. Alina's father was among the first to reach her. His steps were slow at first, as though he needed to make sure his eyes were telling him the truth. When he saw her clearly, sitting upright, calm, steady, his breath caught. His expression softened in a way that revealed both relief and awe. He came close and gently placed his hand on hers, his voice quiet. You have come home, he said. Alina smiled softly. Yes, she replied. I have. Elias stood a short distance away, respectful and still. He did not take attention for himself. He did not speak. He simply remained present like a steady tree rooted in the earth. The tribe slowly gathered around. Their expressions were full of wonder and thought. Some lowered their heads in quiet respect. Some looked at her with gentle admiration. Some remembered the choice they had made to leave her at the outpost and felt a soft ache in their hearts. But Alina did not look at them with blame. Her gaze was kind. She had come not to reopen old pain, but to show that healing was possible. She told them her story in simple words. She explained how the valley had become her shelter, how she had learned patience, how she had found strength in stillness, and how Elias had arrived, not to rescue her but to remind her that life still had room for hope. The tribe listened, and their hearts slowly softened. They had acted not from unkindness but from fear of the future. Hearing her speak showed them that love could continue even through change. Alina's father welcomed Elias to stay. There was room for him, not just in the settlement but in the hearts of those who now understood his steady, gentle nature. Elias accepted not out of obligation, but because he felt that his place was here, not just near Alina, but among these people who were learning to hold care and courage together. Days passed, and the tribe adjusted to this new chapter. Alina was given a comfortable space where she could see the river from her doorway. Children visited her again, bringing small flowers from fields and asking her to tell stories of the valley in the quiet days under wide skies. Elders sat with her in the evenings, speaking of old times and seasons that had come and gone. Her father spent time by her side each morning, sharing silent warmth. Alina continued her gentle exercises. Elias helped her as he always had, patient and thoughtful. Sometimes she rode along the edges of the settlement, the horse moving slowly while Elias walked beside her. People watched and smiled. They no longer saw her as someone who had lost something. They saw her as someone who had changed, and who had found something meaningful in that change. Her presence became a reminder to everyone that life could bend without breaking. That strength could be quiet. That healing did not always mean returning to who you were before, but learning to live fully in who you had become. The tribe began to carry themselves differently. They still worked hard, still prepared for each season, still faced challenges, but they did so with more patience, more understanding, more gentleness. They remembered that every person among them mattered, no matter what shape their abilities took. Elias, in his quiet way, became a steady part of everyday life. He helped where help was needed. He cared for his horse. He listened to others. He spoke rarely, but when he did, his words held clarity. He did not need attention. He did not need praise. His presence alone was enough. Alina found peace, not because everything was easy, but because everything now felt grounded in care. She felt connected to her tribe again, not as someone they needed to protect, but as someone who belonged, someone who offered calm wisdom and quiet strength. In the evenings, when the sky softened into gentle colors, Alina and Elias would sit near the river once more. They did not always speak. They simply shared the stillness between them, the same stillness that had once been lonely but now felt full. The journey that had changed Alina's life was not loud or dramatic. It was slow, patient, and shaped by moments of quiet courage. She had once lost what she thought defined her, but she found that her spirit had never left. It had simply changed form, becoming something deeper, steadier, and more compassionate. Her story did not end with her return. It continued, full of gentle days, meaningful moments, and the peaceful understanding that life can begin again, even when everything has changed. And so, in the soft valley of her heart, Alina carried a truth that she would always remember. Strength does not always roar. Sometimes strength is quiet. Sometimes strength simply remains,